Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here and talk about things that we do, our work, and as we saw in the beginning, in the readings of our daily bread, about our immortality. So what I try to do, my work, is to find scientific facts and research to corroborate what we already know, what we already learn in the Spiritist doctrine about our immortality. So today we're going to talk about emancipation of the soul, which is out-of-body experience during sleep. The purpose today is just to bring information about the dynamics of sleep and dreaming. It's not a practice section, so I ask everybody to stay awake, don't sleep, and stay in your body, please, until we finish. Then afterwards, you're free to move on. Kardec dedicated one whole chapter about the emancipation of the soul, concentrating during sleep, and some other phenomenon that happens as the body is somehow at rest. And that is on Book 2, Chapter 8 of the Emancipation of the Soul. So whoever is interested in learning about a little bit more of Kardec's questions to the spirits and the spirits' answers to his questions related to our freeing our souls or our spirit at times of rest, this is a great chapter. It's from questions 400 to 455. So you have some time to learn a little bit more of what the spirits have to say about that. So, what is emancipation of the soul? It's the partial or complete detachment of the spirit from the physical body. And I put us with the interrogation mark because we are spirits. That's what we need to understand always. We are spirits and we are incarnated. At this moment, we're using our physical body to manifest what we are, the spirit that we are in the physical world. So we need this material body so that we can interact with things, with the grossness of matter of Earth that's characteristic of our planet, and also that we can interact with other human beings incarnated. But in essence, our essence is spirit, that we are right now using this physical body. Now there are two types of emancipation: temporary, which is partial, and permanent, which is complete. Temporary emancipation occurs in two circumstances. One of them is when the body is healthy, and that is during sleep. So that's what we're going to talk about today in part 1. And a more complete type of partial emancipation of the soul is during near-death experience. It's a more complete type of emancipation because the body at that moment is in a completely, it's dead by medical standards. So there is a more complete emancipation of the soul and a more complete, more clearer interaction of the person experiencing the emancipation of soul during NDE. And that is the subject of our part 2, and it is based on my upcoming book. It's already pre-ordered on Amazon. A little break here since she's doing, we do a little commercial here. So it could be pre-ordered already on Amazon, and the title is The End of Death, How Near-Death Experience Prove the Afterlife. And that is part 2. And then there is a third type of emancipation, which is complete when we leave our physical body for good. When the body ends, when we end our work here, the body dies, and we emancipate for good completely during, obviously, a certain time, because then we're going to come back here again. So who experiences this, who has this experience, right? The partial, temporary during sleep, everybody, we all do, even if we don't remember. Part 2, just some people, those who are who had a brush with death during a heart attack or there are several accidents, so forth. And those are just some people, not everybody. And permanent, obviously, all of us, we will experience that when our time comes. Now, who experiences emancipation of the soul? So Kardec, in this, that's how he opens the chapter, question 400. Does the spirit stay voluntarily in its physical body? Now, throughout this, the book, it says it uses spirit as a third person. But when we read it, when we study it, it's good that we understand that in the first person. So spirit, he's talking about me, I am, right? So do we stay voluntarily in our physical bodies? And that question, the answer is, it's like asking if a prisoner is happy to stay in prison. The incarnate spirit, which is us, ceaselessly aspires to be free. And the coarser the body, the faster it wants to get out. So then the following question, during sleep, does the soul rest like the body? And the answer is no. The spirit is never inactive. During sleep, the ties that bind the spirit to the body loosen up, and the body doesn't need the spirit. So the spirit travels through space and enters into close contact with other spirits. Now, how do we know that during sleep at night that we left our physical body? So Kardec also asks that question. And the answer is through dreams. Be sure of this. When the body rests, the spirit, us, acquires greater capabilities than when the body was awake. It remembers the past and sometimes foresees the future. It acquires greater power and enters into communication with other spirits, either in this world or another. We could extend this part here a lot, because this is great, because there are like several types of dreams, premonitory dreams, dreams that we visit past lives or future lives and so forth. But we don't have much time, so we're not going to be able to talk about this in detail. So we're going to leave a few minutes before the end for question and answer. So, and everybody dreams, or everybody dream. If we don't remember, even if we don't remember our dreams, we dream. And so if you have questions, I know that some people already mentioned that, about their interest dreams and so forth. So at the end, we can try and talk a little bit more about your questions. Now, what is sleep? So there are two, I put here two definitions. One is the materialistic definition, which is correct, because that is what happens to us when we sleep. And we have also the spirit's definition, which I prefer. Sleep is a natural state characterized by a reduction of or absence of consciousness, physical consciousness, that is, and by the suspension of sensorial activities and inactivity of almost all voluntary muscles and suspension of our ability to react to stimuli. So we're going to see in a little bit that in certain parts of our sleep at night, the body is almost dead. So it's not dead because it is maintained by this organic force, as we know, that keeps the body alive and functioning without the need of us in it as a spirit that we are bringing, that we bring as a spirit. We bring another type of energy, vital energy, but there's no need at that moment because the body is not moving, it's resting, there's no movement. So there's not expenditure of energy or a lot of energy, so it's kept alive by the organic life responsible for keeping it alive while we need to stay on physical life. Now, the spirits define it differently. Sleep is a door opened by God so that incarnate spirits, us, can go and meet their friends in the spirit world. It is a break after a day's work, while we wait for the great deliverance, the final liberation, which will take us back to our true home, to the spirit world in our essence, right? Now, we're going to get shortly into what happens, sleep cycles and stuff, what happens when we're sleeping. But before, just briefly, we're going to talk about brain waves. What are brain waves? So in near-death experiences, we're going to see in the next one, in the next lecture, we'll see that the brain of a near-death person, whose heart stopped beating, whose respiration ceased, so there's a lack, brain waves cease, so the brain isn't working. So if the brain isn't working, there's no more legally or medically life in that body, and still that person or the spirit continues and remembers that. So while we are alive, while the brain is working, there is this electrochemical activity in the brain, which is measured by brain, or called brain waves, measured by hertz or second or cycles per second. So it's an electrochemical activities, because our brain has electricity. Actually, we have electricity in every cell, in every atom, because every atom is an electric element. So we are electric beings. That is great. So types of brain waves. Here I put 4 types, but there are other types, but these are the major types. Beta, for instance, 14 to 40 hertz. When we're awake and active. Then we have the next one, which is a slower brain wave, that's alpha, 7.5 to 14. Then we have a little picture there, a little image that's going to show you what the brain waves look like on paper. And theta, it's deep when we're in meditation, 4 cycles to 7.5 cycles, hertz per second. In delta, the slowest while we are alive, 0.5 to 4 hertz. So right now, my brain waves are beta brain waves because I am physically active, and I also am mentally active, because as I try to think and work out my thoughts in order to deliver my talk to you, so I am in a beta state. So I hope that everybody else is in the beta state, because when you're in alpha, you're relaxing, you start leaving your body, and then you're not gonna listen to what I'm saying. So let's stay beta, everybody. So we see that delta, 0.5, it's almost dead, right? So the body is almost we're on the other side. So the beta, this is a little, if anybody has had electroencephalogram or electrocardiogram, you saw the picture of the waves that they show. Those are the traces that's the movement of the brain. The brain waves measured by that. So we see beta, very small waves, very rapid, see? And then we have the ones that are longer and slower, alpha, when we are relaxing. And theta, so they start going down, so less movement in the brain, so less activity in the body, less activity in the brain, slower brain waves. And now we're going to talk about sleep and sleep cycle. This is an image. There's a lot of universities, especially in the United States. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine in Chicago is the major organization that studies sleep and dreams for various reasons. Not here we study it, or I study sleep and dream, because I want to show And I want to understand that we are immortal beings, that we have a body that can leave the physical body and can work in other dimensions, even as the body is alive. But they study for other purposes. And we're not going to talk about that. But this is an image, like a very nice one, as a matter of fact, of so they have every night, they have people there sleeping, spending the night for them to do the work that they're doing, the studies. Some it's for the person has insomnia and suffers from it, so what they do is they try and find ways, understand what happens during sleep into the brain as the body rests, so that they can find either medication or ways to help that person to live a healthier life. So if we are the person sleeping in one of those laboratories, this is more or less what would happen. We'd stay in a bed there, very comfortable, and then we'd be hooked up with those electrodes for brain waves, for heartbeats, and for other body actions that they hooked us up in those monitors to see what's happening physically to the body as we go through the cycles of sleep. And they determined in the process, and this is being studied for many decades, so they came up with different stages of sleep that we go through, what they call the sleep cycle. So each sleep, and that happens, it's very common, so it's something that is certain that happens. And as we try to understand ourselves also, to know better who we are, we can also do that work with our own selves at night, so that we can understand a little bit better what happens to us, what we do as we go to bed every night. So let's say that you go to bed tonight, and then you start noticing, right? You came here, so you spent almost an hour here, so you're gonna know, so you're gonna follow, you're gonna see what's gonna happen to you tonight, and you're gonna sort and follow that. So you're gonna be home, right, watching your TV until 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, then you get ready, put your kids to bed, do your dishes and stuff. So all that, you are in the beta state, because you're active physically and mentally. So then you change, you go to bed, and you lay down, and you start relaxing. So as you start relaxing, you start then getting into the sleep cycle. In the first sleep cycle, and this one I'm sure everybody notices, because this is the easiest one to notice. It is also the shortest one, and it only happens in the majority of the time, or unless you get up during the night and you stay awake for an hour or two. The stage one only happens when you go to bed. So it's the transition from your fully awake state into your sleep state. So they call it stage one, also called the hypnagogic state. So this is the time that you lay down, relax, and then you start relaxing. So your brain waves that was beta until a minute ago starts going to alpha. You start relaxing. So, and you twitch sometimes. And also you start having images in your mind. So you see things, or you hear words, or sometimes you even see yourself doing things. You see scenes happening to in your mind, colors. Sometimes you even write poetry or recite something, or have some nice great ideas, or sometimes you're even at that stage, you're able to find the answer for whatever question was bothering you, for instance. So that's a very short 4 to 5%. So each sleep cycle lasts from 90 to 110 minutes. It all depends how your night is, but normally it's like that. So you start a very short one, about 5% of your first sleep cycle is in the hypnagogic state. Then you start moving, then you lose consciousness, physical consciousness, that is. So, and then you get to stage two. And this in stage two, and this is something that is frequent, measured in those laboratories, is that the brain waves at that moment, for most of our sleep cycle, about almost 50% of a sleep cycle, is in a brain activity that is anomalous. It is not delta, it's not beta, it's anomalous. They call it, they had to come up with a name. So they call it K complexes and sleep spindles. So it's different. If you see there the picture, they're different, right? So at that moment, according to sleep medicine, there's no dreaming. And there's a drastic change to the body. Like the breathing pattern, heart rate, everything slows down. The temperature cools down. And we spend about 50% of our sleep in that. Then we go to the next stage, which is very short, stage 3, that the brain starts to generate those delta waves again, 4, 5, 6%. And then the 4 stage N4, I'll explain in a minute what the N means, another 15 minutes. And here, in this stage, which would be like in the 60 minutes, after an hour maybe, then things start to happen. So some of the things is our sleepwalking, for instance, if there's any sleepwalker here, and it happens in this stage. Another thing, they're called night terrors. Night terrors are recurrent dreams, and usually it's the same dream, always, the same thing that happens, and it's different from nightmares because it's something that a person can get out, and it's something that is, if you try to wake up a person, it's very difficult to wake that person up during that period when the person is having this night terror. I know my brother used to have that, and coincidentally, there's a lot of studies, and the spirit doctrine, and that was something that fascinated me when I came upon it. I studied other religions, and also I studied some scientific studies of near-death experience and OBE and reincarnation and so forth before I was introduced to the Spirit's doctrine. And then when I started reading, especially the Spirit's book, fantastic, I was fascinated how those spirits, 106, almost 153 or 54 years ago, were already saying things that science is just now telling us about. So night terror, according to many reincarnation studies, scientific reincarnation studies, they, especially children who remember past lives, those night terrors, they're traumas of past lives. Not all of them, of course, because there are traumas caused in this life too, but many of them, they're related to how that person died in a past life. And so the trauma was so great that it somehow it was brought into this new life. Well, whatever happened to us is engraved indelibly engraved in our mental body, but we don't remember everything that we know in this life because we don't need to. We are much greater. We have much more knowledge than we have today. We have done things that we can't believe we've done. We've lived through different eras. We've been, different personalities. We've done great, great things. But we do not remember all that, luckily, because we don't have to. All we need to remember from our experiences, intuition, stuff, is whatever it is necessary for us to carry on the physical life that we are here to do at this moment. But in certain circumstances, especially in children, and luckily too, these children who have these traumas, for instance, they relive the trauma during a night terror when they're 7 or 8 years old. They start fading, and by their adolescence, they don't dream about that anymore because it's terrifying and it can be a problem. So all that happens in that stage. Now, the N means non-REM. REM means rapid eye movement. Rapid eye movement. And this happens at the end of the sleep cycle. And it lasts about 25% of our dream. In the beginning of the first stage, maybe this REM stage, rapid eye movement stage, is brief, like 10 to 15 minutes. But as we rest, and as the night goes on, like by the time like around 5 or 6 in the morning, the REM can be for 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And that's when we mostly remember our dreams. Now, this is, so if you have seen your pets, everybody has pets here, right? So if you follow your pet, when the pet starts to sleep, you're gonna see the twitching, and sometimes they even, the cat or the puppy tries to, like if it was walking, and then through a stage the body is a little bit more rigid, and then at one point you can even see the eyes moving. So, and at that moment in the last stage, the REM stage, if you see the brain waves, in the stage 1 and the brain waves stage 5, they're beta stage. They're beta waves. They're waves as though we were awake. So in science, the sleep science, they call it paradoxical sleeping. The body is sleeping, but the brain is working, and there's great activity. And this is the moment of the day, of the night, after a REM cycle. Our sleep is very light, and many times we wake up and we go drink water. I get up mostly most of the end of my sleep cycle. I get up because I have physiological necessities. So, and that happens almost every night. And I use that time too to try and think about my dream, because dream and recall in what we're doing, like we are as we try to learn about ourselves, dream and recall is very important, especially if we want to experience out-of-body experience more consciously. So dream and recall is very important, because then from a dream recall, if you do that frequently, then you have your so-called lucid dreaming, that you know that you're dreaming, and once you're lucid, you have control what you're doing while the body is sleeping. And there's a lot of some physiological and occurrences during the REM stage. For instance, males can have an erection, and females have wetness and things like that. Now, because now this is science. Now let's say from the spiritist point of view, okay? Now what's happening to us as we sleep? We as a spirit, and we want to get out of the physical body, right? So we start, as we sleep, we start falling asleep or drifting off to sleep. Then we start leaving the physical body. So what we're seeing actually, that we think that are images that are occurring in the physical brain, it is actually us seeing things that are beyond the physical life. We start getting out. We start being free. So we get out of the body, and then we stay out. And that is, so there is this discharge. We leave. We have like energy body leaving the physical body, if not entirely, at least partially. So it is, it's going to occur a change in brain waves, because this brain waves, this change of brain waves has been noticed, measured during studies of laboratory out-of-body experience that we're going to talk briefly later on. So we leave, and this is when we stay out most of the time, even though we don't remember. Now, stage 3, we're still out. Oh, stage 3, yeah, we're still out. Then when we start this, the N4, for instance, when we come back, things start to change. We have or night terror, or sleepwalking, or teeth grinding. That happens during this time too. They're called parasomnias. So what's happening? We are returning to the body, and when we are in the REM stage, the last stage, we are bringing those that we saw. We're gonna see it. The spirit say how you know that you have been out of body, right? by the dreams. So what's happening in the REM state is actually our return. And what we're bringing, what's happening is that those images that we saw, and many of them, they're like crazy, right? Chaotic, they don't make any sense. Some do, some don't. So what we're trying is to translate those images in symbols that we are familiar with, physical symbols that we are familiar with. So, and as we come back, see there's the drastic, when we leave the body, so there's a drastic change, right? So breathing slows down, heartbeat slows down, then we're out. Then when we come back, there is this discharge of hormones in our system. And the brain waves work as though we are awake. So we have those very, very vivid images. Even though when we wake up, we'll forget most of them. So the dream recall is important for everybody who is interested in using the dreams for our own growth, right? For our own knowledge of ourselves and stuff. And writing down, keeping a dream journal would be a good idea too. So, sleep cycle, we're gonna have a few minutes for question and answer. So if you have questions, there's a lot more that we could go into it. So if you have a question, keep in your mind and then ask, and we'll try and talk about it. Now, what are dreams? So question 402, the answer is dreams are remembrances of what your spirit saw and did during sleep. But it is sometimes a remembrance of the confusion that accompanies your departure or return, mingled with things that you did during the day or that worried you. So that is for sure, because when we are dreaming and we have something that is worrying us, then that is somehow it's going to it could be manifested during a dream, or even put in a context, in a dream context, that we could use also that information. So there are things that are worrying us that could be presented to us as a dream that we could also use for our own benefit to try and understand it. And most of the time, it could be also related to our personalities, our fears and things like that. So we could use that for our own benefit. So we see here there are two sources of dreams. Then there is one that is mental process, things that are happening to us that are worrying us about our physical life, and then also emancipation, during emancipation, when we leave the physical body and we are aware enough to see things and to see things that's happening in another level of reality, which we call the spirit world or spiritual reality, and as we interact with other also incarnate spirits that are there having an out-of-body experience as we are, and also other discarnate spirits who are there for some reason to help us most of the time, or to taunt us depending on the quality of the spirit that we're talking about. Now, why don't we always remember our dreams? Question 403. The answer: in what you call sleep, it is only the body that rests. The spirit, which is us, is always active. At this time during sleep, we recover a little bit of our freedom, and we interact with those that are dear to us, either in this world, if they're out of the bodies like ourselves, or in other worlds. However, since the physical body is composed of heavy matter, so we have all this limited, although the brain is a fascinating machine, it's also limited to certain aspects. It seldom maintains the impressions the spirit received, because they have not been received by physical organs. It's like if you think of a radar, for instance, and those stealth airplanes, so, that they're able to fly even if there's a radar around, but they do not reach the radar, cannot read it, cannot see it. But but even though it's flying around it, so it's basically that same thing that happens. So there's a period of our emancipation that has nothing to do with what's happened to our physical life or our physical brain. And as we achieve as we achieve a certain state of knowledge in out-of-body experience, for instance, you see how that works. Now, signs of emancipation. So those questions, like Kardec asked how we know, so they said through dreams, but there's another, like other ways that we can realize, we can figure out, we can know that we were for that moment out of our bodies. For instance, lucidity, right? Lucidity. The dream, when you have those dreams that you say, this is my dream, it was a dream, but it was too real to be a dream. And we see a lot in studies of after-death communication through dreams, for instance. This is something that is very, very frequent. Like a mother who loses a child, or the husband who loses a spouse. And so they have these dreams, and then they say, first they are even afraid to tell you because they're afraid of ridicule. So they say, I had this dream with my loved one who departed, and it was here very close. I could even feel the heartbeat. I could feel the warmth of the hug and all that. It was fascinating. So I say that it's a dream, but it was too real to be a dream. So we know as a spirit is that we do have this contact, and during sleep, as we are out of body, so we can be in the same frequency with their spirit body. So the dream state, the sleep state, is a time, a period that spirits use in order to come and say hello. I had an experience once. It was a fascinating one. It was a friend of mine. She had died in Brazil, and I knew that her death was very difficult, and she suffered for 6 months, and she had a lot of things that she didn't work out properly before leaving, so it was a very difficult death. So after 6 months, I had this dream that was too real to be a dream, and she was right here, and I saw it was something that was interesting. She always bleached her hair, so she was always blonde through the time that I knew her, since we were teenagers. But she was brunette. And in the dream, she was brunette, like her hair was original, the original color. And that drew my attention. And also the condition of the skin. She was very close. And then I said, then when I realized that she was there, I said, I know that you had a very difficult disincarnation. And how are you doing now? And that was 6 months up later. She said, I'm doing great. She said, I'm good now. Everything is okay. Then it came to me, the first thing, do you have any message that you want to tell anybody? She said, yes. Tell my mom not to worry. I am okay and I am happy. And then she showed me a little thing there that I don't remember. It was like a metal or something that I didn't understand why that meant. And then the dream ended. Next morning, I called her mother, a very good friend of ours, our family, almost a relative. I called her and I said, I'm calling to tell you that I had a dream, and I dreamed with Sueli. And Sueli told me to tell you not to worry, that she is happy and that she is okay. The woman started sobbing. She started bawling. And then I thought, maybe she heard her name. And then when she stopped crying, she said, you're not going to believe this. Last night, before I went to sleep, I asked God to give me a sign or a message that Sueli was okay. And she goes, no, the message is given. And she said, what I don't understand is why she had to go to Miami to tell you that. She and you, but she could have told me. I said, well, maybe she came to Miami. Everybody wants to come to Miami anyways. So clarity of mind, right? It's too clear. You are in that dream, and you know that's very real. It's everything, colors, all those beautiful things, that you see clearly. So that is also a sign. Catalepsy is also known as sleep paralysis. So when we are out of our bodies, in our sleep cycle, the body is almost the entire time, at least half of the sleep cycle, cataleptic. It's rigid. It's like if you touch someone, it's like the body's dead. I have a daughter, she's 12 years old, and she, I don't know, for some reason, she tends to sleep with her legs crossed. And she sleep her leg crossed all night almost. And then in the morning, I go and cross her leg. And the leg just stays crossed. Even when she turns a little bit, she has to lay like that. It doesn't uncross, so it's very, very hard. Ballooning, when you start, you see your body expanding, but this is mostly happens when you start to fall asleep. In vibration state, all of a sudden you start, you feel a vibration inside of you. So that's something that if you are aware of that, you can work with the vibration, because the vibration facilitates our withdrawal from the physical body. Flying, falling, right? You're sleeping, then you feel like you're falling, so you return. Flying. Flying dreams. Flying dreams do not happen in your brain. If you're flying, you are out of body. And I can tell you that because in my flying dreams, I see outside. I see my backyard. I see my living room when I'm flying away. I see the lake that is behind so I see it, and I know that I'm out of my body, so I use that time to do those testing. So you fly, you're out. Where do we go? And what do we do? Sometimes we just hang in there. We don't go anywhere. We just hang in there. I had an experience with a sister. It was incredible. From Miami to Brazil. And I'm not going to get into detail of this because it's in the book. So it's going to be here in December. You read it in detail. So all my part, throughout my experience of leaving my body was very conscious since the beginning, because I planned it. I didn't plan to see her, because that was when it came. Where do I go? I want to see my sister. And immediately I was there, and in her house, I went to the bedroom, her bedroom, and I saw her. She was, this is very high, this image of the person's eye. She was much lower, she was like this, and she was like crossed like this. But the head in the same position this way, here, like a crooked axe, and the feet here. And then there is something that verified that was fascinating to me, that obviously I'm not going to tell you. So you read the book and you'll see. Now the spirits tell us, right? Where do we go? What we do? We travel through space and we enter into direct contact with other spirits. During sleep, incarnate spirits are often in connection with the spirit world. And we gather together with spirits that are superior to us. We learn, right? We're taught. And we travel with them. We talk to them. We learn from them. And we work in projects that will be completed when we disincarnate. So we're going to find out when we go back to the spirit world that it's not, we're going to see that it's nothing mysterious. We've been there before, and we're going to see things that we have been working on as we slept, and we're going to continue the same thing if we haven't finished yet. Dreams and physical death. And this is part of the answering question 402. Dream is a partial release of the soul, us, from the body. So we leave it, right? So when we sleep, this is the spirit telling us, when we sleep, we are, for a moment, in the state that we will find ourselves permanently after death. And this should teach you, once again, not to fear death, for you die every day. So we are already veterans. We know how to die. First, we have died many, many times, physically, right? And second, we are trained during sleep, during our dreams. So sleep and dreams, they're like a prelude to the afterlife. It's not going to be any mysterious mistake. Myth of danger. Now, the spirit is immediately, this is Kardec, because there's this, if I leave my body, something happens, right? To the body. So Kardec has this information in this medium's book, item 118. The spirit is immediately informed of the necessity to return to the body, and returns to it at lightning speed regardless of the distance it is from the body. This means that the body won't die because the spirit is absent, and the spirit will never find the door of the body closed upon its return, of course, if the body is to be kept alive. In one of my experiences, out-of-body experiences, working with something that we're doing, I was conscious enough to ask the spirit guide that was with me how long I could stay, or we could stay out of the body without causing damages to the physical body. And he said 50 minutes max. So 50 minutes. And when you look at those charts, for instance, the sleep cycle, you see the type of where the K complex waves are, that it is about 50 minutes, because we do have to come back sort to recharge it. I have had experiences that was incredible. For some reason, I don't know if we get stuck or if for some reason when we don't come. So I have many times awoken like with like pounding on the headboard of my bed, like tack. So end up you sleep. So and then you look, there's no reason for you to receive that. Now we're not going to be able to talk about scientific studies because we only have 5 minutes. So questions and comments.